Thank you for being here. We are on a brand new journey starting today, kicking off a brand new series that I'm super excited about. Calling this series Punctuation. And I believe that if we can understand that punctuation not only influences our conversation, but it influences really how we live life without us even knowing that it's happening. And we're gonna journey in this walk of faith. And so I want to read you 2 paragraphs just to show you the value of punctuation. So here's paragraph 1. Here's a letter written from Gloria. Dear John, I want a man who knows what love is all about. You are generous, kind, and thoughtful. People who are not like you admit to being useless and inferior. You have ruined me for other men. I yearn for you. I have no feelings whatsoever when we are apart. I can be forever happy. Will you let me be yours, Gloria? So let's read that with a little bit of a change in the punctuation. Dear John, I want a man who knows what love is. All about you are generous, kind, and thoughtful people who are not like you. Admit to being useless and inferior. You have ruined me. For other men, I yearn. For you, I have no feelings whatsoever. When we are apart, I can be forever happy. Will you let me be yours, Gloria? I'll let you decide which one of those you want to receive. But punctuation changes the value without us even knowing that it changes the value. And punctuation in our walk with Christ changes the value. I want to start this series talking about the question mark. I want to start with the question mark. And I want to tell you that it's okay. I want to tell you it's okay to have doubts. It's okay to wonder, to doubt God, to question God. It's okay. We see a great story we're reminded of, and I spoke about it last Easter with Mary and Martha and their baby brother Lazarus, and who died far too early at a young age, and they sent for Jesus, and this was a family that they were influential, and they were close friends of Jesus's. We read of another story where Jesus went to their home, and Mary and Martha got in a fight, and Jesus kind of settled the issue, and so Jesus is hanging out, and so he gets a message that Lazarus died, and Jesus doesn't wait 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. He waits 4 days before he gets there. And when Jesus comes walking up, then Mary comes up to Jesus and goes, "Hey, where have you been?" And Martha, she goes and meets Jesus as well. She hears word that he's coming. Hey, you could have stopped this. And so Jesus, as he's standing in front of the tomb, the storyline tells us, the narrator tells us of the gossip that's going behind Jesus, where the crowd began to question, hey, isn't this the guy that raised the dead? Isn't this the guy that healed children? Isn't this the guy that made the blind see? Isn't this the guy that let the deaf hear? Isn't this that guy? And the pivotal verse of that story is John 11:35, where it says, and Jesus wept. How beautiful is that? That he would stand before the tomb, that he knew what he was going to do, fully aware of what he was about to resurrect, fully aware of what was going to happen in this life, and yet he took the time to weep. I love this about Jesus, because here's the deal. When we come to him with our questions and we say, who's going to help me in my fear? And he says, I am. And we say, who's going to help me when I feel alone? And he says, I am. And we say, who's going to believe in me when no one else does? And he says, I am. And we say, I don't know if I can get through this. Who's going to help me? And he says, I am. And we say, I don't even know if you're alive. Who's going to prove it to me? And he says, I am. And then he says, but before I am takes over, I just want to cry with you. I understand that the loss of your little brother was too soon. And I'm not going to gloss over your pain. And I know how we're going to resolve this. But I also want you to know that I'm not going to tell you just to quit crying, shut up, and sit down. I'm going to cry with you. I'm going to weep where you weep. And I'm going to let you know that I'm real. And that I feel your pain. And it's okay, Mary and Martha, it's okay for you to question where I'm at today. I promise you, your doubts can't make God any smaller. Your doubts can't insult God. He died. Your doubts aren't even close. If you have your Bibles, I want you to open to John chapter 20, and we're going to catch a storyline here that kind of is the foundation of today's question mark in punctuation. John 20, 24. This conversation is happening shortly after Jesus has risen from the dead. He's died and he's risen from the dead, and we eavesdrop in. John writes this story for us. He says, now Thomas, also known as Didymus or twin, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples, they told him, we have seen the Lord. I love that line. I just love that line. We have seen the Lord. But Thomas, said to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I'm not buying it. I don't believe. A week later, the disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Now, can I just interrupt myself right there? I don't know how you read it. This is kind of, if I'm Jesus, this is my vision. Like, so these guys, they're in this room, and the doors are locked because they're living in fear. We want to be caught. So and we're not even sure, but Jesus was alive. And if we got the windows locked, we got the doors locked. Like if you go past the window, kind of crouch down. We don't want him to sneak in. Because there's just 11 of us left, and I don't know. We got to keep the doors locked. Let's be quiet for a minute. And Jesus walks in, and they're all like, shh. And I just, shh. And if I'm Jesus, I'm like, oh boy, I totally got you, dude. Peter, you were like hiding behind me like Satan. That's what's going on. Oh, John, you're the beloved, bro. You was crying like a little girl right there. Look at y'all, 11 little pea spots right there. Hey, peace be with you, by the way. Wow. Good thing you had the door locked, because, by the way, I am the door. Woo! Welcome. I read it a little different than you. I do not think for one minute he just showed up and went, peace be with you. I think those boys freaked out. It's like, Thomas, I told you. Then he said to Thomas, put your finger here. See my hands, reach out your hand, put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. Will you pray with me one more time? Lord, I thank you. Oh, man, I thank you that you are a refreshing God. You are a healing God. You are the great I am. And nothing can be taken away from that. And nothing ever needs to be added to that. And so I pray that you fill this space with your Holy Spirit, and that we today leave here different than we came in, because we got a greater glimpse of who you are, and that we can live, love, and look like you on the other side. Love you, Jesus. And all City Church said, Amen. Amen. Have you ever been in this situation, or you've been the situation, where perhaps it happens in a grocery store, or perhaps on an airplane, or any circumstance where a child is saying, Mom, 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 Mom. And it's like, dear God woman, your name is Mom. Answer the child. Don't judge me. You all have wanted to say that to somebody's mom. We learn to block out those voices. How does that happen? We just learn to block it out. I don't know. Somehow we just learn to block it out, and everybody else can hear, but we don't hear it. Sometimes we feel like we're the ones blocked out. Sometimes we're the one, we feel like we're going, Mom, 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 Mom. God already knows your questions. In fact, he says in 1 Thessalonians to test all things. Now, there's a teaching out there that's like, oh, don't put the Lord thy God to the test. Well, that's true, but what that's meaning is don't test his universal law. The universal law, a universal law is something that affects everybody, whether you have faith or not. That's a universal law. Gravity is a universal law. Believe in God or not, there's gravity. Don't test gravity. Don't jump off a building and say, God, I'm testing you to catch me. He won't, you'll die. That's stupid. It doesn't, but it does say test all things. And so he brings it out. He says, listen, test all things. Test if I'm the one that loves you and I'm closer than a brother. Test if I'm the one that's the lifter of your head, and I'll never tell you to put it down. Test if I'm the one that makes you the head and not the tail. Test if I'm the one that shows up in the middle of a tragedy and brings you peace. Test if I'm the one that knows the numbers of the hair on your head. Test if I'm the one that knows how many tears you cry. Test if I'm the one that knows that a sparrow falls from the sky. I certainly know your concern is real. Test if I'm the one that will love you so much I'll lay down my life for another. Test if I'm the one that will take you through the valley of the shadow of death. What a great promise. He says, I won't leave you in the valley. We're going through the valley. And the cool part of that is it's a shadow of death, which means if there's a shadow, there's a light. And he says, go ahead and test that. Go ahead. And he already knows our questions, but maybe we were raised in a culture that didn't allow us that. Maybe we were raised in a culture with a hard dad or a dad that said things like, have you ever thought about some of the things that parents say to their children? Things like, boy, you cut your legs off in that lawnmower, don't you come running to me. All right? I would love it when my dad would say, boy, go get me something to beat you with. I'd bring him a balloon. I deserve it, Dad. Whew, I messed up. Or maybe we heard, don't you question me. Don't you question me. Maybe we heard this, but it was lived out like this. And so with those skewed perspectives, I don't know if I can go to this God who says he's full of grace, who says his love casts all fear away, who says I can come to the throne of grace with confidence, who says I'm a co-heir, who says I'm one of his kids, who says I'm his friend. I don't know if I can ask him what I want to ask him because of my influence in this world defines the influence of that world. And today I want to break that off of you. I want you to know it's okay. It's okay to have questions. It's okay. Because when he says, test all things, it's, in our mind, I fear that we land in, well, I test whether it's good or evil, pass or fail. And there's so many more dimensions past that testing. It's not just about is it good or evil. That's obvious. We could take that test any day. Let's just flip through the channels. Good, evil, good, evil. It's not a pass or fail. It's a test me. Why do we take tests? To see how well we have the knowledge. And he says, how well do you know me? Go ahead, test me. Try me. Am I in the middle of your pain? Go ahead, ask. Are you like David hiding in a cave saying, dear God, how long will you forget me? Are you like David in a cave saying, why does it seem like my enemies are prospering? Are you like David that says, you've totally forgotten me. In fact, you put a call in my life that I don't even get to fulfill, so I'm not sure I even want it. And he says, this isn't pass or fail. Ask those questions. How well do you know the material? Wow. Wow. Verse 27 of our storyline, he says, Then Jesus said to Thomas, put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hand, put it in my side, stop doubting and believe. And Thomas said to him, my Lord and my God. For the first time in all history, those two labels are tied together. For the first time ever, Thomas makes this revelation, my Lord and my God. At some point in our walk, he's got to become more than just our God and become our Lord. And that can't happen if we don't go to him and get to know him and ask him. For the first time in history, Thomas touched Jesus' wounds and experienced something none of the other 11 got to do. Wow. And put yourself, Thomas spent roughly 3.5 years with this guy. Thomas watched him raise a 12-year-old little girl from the dead. Thomas watched him heal a woman with an issue of blood. Thomas watched him feed 4,000 and then feed 5,000. Thomas watched him heal a blind man by spitting in his eyes and heal another blind man just by pointing at him. Thomas watched him take a 38-year-old man who'd never walked, jumped in the pool, and now he's jumping around. Thomas watched him calm the sea. Thomas watched him walk on the water. Thomas watched him pull demons out of the demoniac. Thomas watched him send demons into pigs. Thomas watched this and still was like, I don't know, boys. Did you not see him on that cross? I saw him on that cross. He looked pretty dead to me. He might not look dead to you. You might have thought he visited you. I think y'all are just thinking that he visited you. I saw what happened on that cross. I'm like, no, Thomas, 3 years. Do you doubt? I do doubt. You know what I love about that? Thomas's doubt was attractive to Jesus. Thomas's doubt made Jesus show up. Didn't repel him. Didn't offend him. Didn't make him judge Thomas. Said, wow, I'm so attracted that I'm going to show up to these boys a second time. Because Thomas's doubt was attractive. Wow. There's freedom. There's freedom, church. There's freedom in knowing he truly is a God of grace. He truly is a God of forgiveness. He truly is a God that puts a destiny on your life. He truly is a God that has a promise for you. He truly is a God that will never leave you or forsake you. He truly is a God that stays closer than a brother. He truly is a God that laid down his life for another. He truly is a God that says, I am the highway to heaven. He truly is a God that said, I am the bread of life. He truly is a God that said, I'll meet you in your darkness. He truly is a God that says goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. He truly is a God that says there's no coastline that can measure my supply. He truly is a God that says you can't worry enough to outdo my goodness. He truly is that kind of a God. And when we question him because we want to know him, he said, that's so attractive, I'm going to show up. That's our God. And it's okay. It's okay to ask those questions. Even if he's done a whole lot of other miracles, it's okay to wonder if he's going to do one more. Wow. That's the good news. I am preaching myself happy. Wow. I am getting happy. You have to be happy in this weather. We were with our daughter yesterday. She said, "Oh, I've really been enjoying this June temperature. It's been a little cooler." I said, "Yeah, a little cooler than hell." Yeah, it's wonderful. Let's celebrate. Your doubts are okay, but they're not okay if you never bring them to Him. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. You will never, listen to me, you will never have no doubts, because that would mean you don't need faith. It's okay. I hope it doesn't concern you that there's been times in your pastor's life where I'm like, does this even matter? Like, does what I do even really mean? Have I been fooled? Am I just a really good talker and a few people gather and we call it church, and at the end of the day it doesn't really... I've had those conversations. I hope that doesn't concern you that your pastors walk through that. I hope it does energize you that your pastor has faith to believe this does matter. And in the end, we do win. And He really is a good God. And it's okay for you to come to the throne of grace boldly and with confidence and say, "Help me in my unbelief because I don't quite get this." It's okay. It's okay. He says, "Test all things." David in Psalms 34 said it a little differently. David in Psalms 34 says, "Taste and see that the Lord, He's good. He's good. And blessed is the one that takes refuge in Him." If we didn't have doubts, we wouldn't need refuge. And David said, just taste and see. Taste and see. If you've been around here very long, you know I love that psalm. You know I love that psalm. I love that psalm. I think David had it in a whole different revelation, because when you look at Psalm 34, it says, the first word of Psalm 34 is, "Oh." Like, oh. 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 Taste and see that the Lord is good. That's what I think David's doing. Blessed is he who puts his trust in Him. Oh! David's saying, David's like, "Oh, yeah, this guy, he's good." And you got fear, put your trust in Him. You got questions, take refuge in Him. You got anxiety, He's got you covered. He might come in and go, "Whoa!" but peace will be on the other side. That's David. Cliff, if you guys will come up. I don't know who's doing slides. I'm going to skip Chronicles and go to John chapter 20. This book of John is written by a disciple, John, who several times throughout this story, as he's writing this narrative, he refers to himself as the one Jesus loved, the beloved one. He reminds us in this story that he's the one that laid his head on Jesus' chest at the Last Supper. He's like, chilling out with Jesus. Like he's hanging out, puts his head on Jesus' chest. Like, I don't know about you, but you come to dinner at my house, do not put your head on my chest. That's weird. Like I'm sitting on the couch, kind of kicked back. Keenan comes over, lays his head down. But yet John writes, yeah, I'm that guy. We were having dinner, and I went and laid my head on his chest. In fact, John says, I'm the guy. I'm the guy that when Jesus said, one of y'all's gonna betray me, I'm the one that the other 11 said, you ask him. You ask him. John says, John records for us that at the cross, Jesus says, hey, John, I need you to take care of my mom. I need you to love on her for a while. John records all this. So John's storyline, his narrative is very inclusive. And yet he writes something so interesting that we can read and not catch his message. And he says in John 20, verse 30, Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. Oh, do I want to know what they were? I cannot wait for the DVD in heaven. That's old technology. I cannot wait for whatever he does. To what? He did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which aren't recorded in this book. It's interesting. John records it. I'm the beloved one, and I laid my head on his chest, and well, he sent his mom home with me, and the other boys, they needed me to ask him who was going to betray him, and I was the guy, and I'm the one that my whole book starts with the Word was God and became flesh, and we didn't recognize it, like I'm the one who wrote that part, and so I've included a lot, but you know what? There's some stuff I can't include. And then he says this qualifying statement in verse 31. But these are written that you may believe. That you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God. These are written that you can have the same revelation that Thomas had. My Lord and my God. These, John says, these I specifically wrote of all my intimacy with the Father, of being in the inner three, of being really the one, of all my conversations with him, private and public, of all the miracles we saw. I want you to know that what I wrote down was so that you can have the same revelation Thomas had. That he's my Lord and my God. And that by believing, you may have life in his name. Wow. Remember last week I told you that really when life is talked about, there's abundant life or eternal life. What's really being said there, that word life is the oversimplified definition of that is to walk in the unforced rhythms of grace. To walk in the unforced rhythms of grace. And John says, look, Jesus did a lot that I didn't record. But the ones I did record, I purposely recorded so that you can have the same revelation as Thomas. And from that revelation, walk in the unforced rhythms of grace. Wow. It's okay to doubt. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to wonder. He's not offended. In fact, he's attracted. And he'd like to show you the scars that prove when you do doubt, he's got the scars to remind him he's going to answer. He's got the stab in his side to remind you, or to remind him that for your iniquities he died. And he says, your questions, your fears, they don't repel me. I find them highly attractive. And I'd like to interrupt you in the middle of your question and change your life so that you can walk in the unforced rhythms of grace. Wow. That is good news. That's good news. Will you stand with me? I'm going to have the band take us through a song. And I don't know, in this room and with this group of people, I don't know what fears you might have, what questions you might have, what doubts you might have. I don't know. But I believe there's some in this room. I believe you've had some this week, or you got some coming next week. But I know this. If we'll just be honest with him, he's attracted and he'll show up. You notice he didn't change his circumstance. He didn't say to Thomas, oh no, I didn't really die. Oh no, Thomas, I didn't really get these. No. He said, no, the circumstance is real, bro. I died. But I'm good enough to help you through yours. I can do that. So we go through this last song I'll dismiss in a moment. We just take the boldness, and maybe you just need to say, God, I'm really struggling. I'm not even sure this is real. Maybe today you need to be as transparent with him and say, I don't even know if you're real. Can you prove yourself to me? Will you show up? Or maybe you're in a pain in your life and you're like, God, I think you forgot me here. You do that in the next couple of minutes, and let's leave here with a little more confidence in that throne of grace.